Radio Without Boundaries. You are listening to the WAVE Project, Solutions, Black Women's Role in Public Policy of Black Male Unemployment, the Economic Liberation of the Black Man. Your host today is Lenny Chisholm.
Welcome. The numbers are staggering. That's why we're having this conversation. It's a critical conversation that we need to have. The unemployment crisis for African American men, those that have families, brothers, cousins, nephews, uncles, is by all means out of control. The stimulus money has not reached the African American families the way that it should have, according to how we were expecting it to. But one of the things that we find that's absent, and that's why we're having this show today, Let's Talk Solutions, is the absence of the voices that are necessary to bring about social change in the policy for the distribution of money of these jobs. I'm joined today by several strong black women, also Don Allen, and we're going to have a conversation that's critical for our community today. Once again, my name is Lenny Chisholm, joined by Monica Mayberry, Roxanne, Ebony, Tonya, and Don Allen. Let's just open it up right off the bat. Roxanne?
Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Roxanne O. Brien. I'm from the North Side. I'm also a community organizer, a mother of 3 wonderful children. Shout out to my babies. And I came today because Lenny asked me to, and we actually have had this discussion for a little bit, for a couple weeks now. And my thing is my role is my own role. I don't think that there's a specific role that women have. I believe that it's in the individual, and what you think you can do to help is probably going to be helpful. Just doing something, though, being a voice in the community. There's a lot of racial injustices going on right now, and I think we need to talk about that, and we need to definitely come up with some solutions. I believe that the unemployment rate for black people is embarrassing. It's frustrating. It angers me and many other people, and I think we need to come together. It's time. It's been time, and we all need to join at the decision-making table. So for me, I do a lot of community organizing. I was trained by a community organization over South called Hope Community, and through that, we started a group called SPEAK, which stands for Sustainable Progress Through Engaging Active Citizens. From there on, I'm a new member on the NERC board, and right now I come to every table that I can to make sure that my voice and the people that I represent in the 7th District of Northside is heard.
Ebony?
Hi, I'm Ebony Harris. I consider myself more of an independent activist. I born and raised, grew up in North Minneapolis. I'm a single mom of 4 children ranging from 21 to 5. Also, I'm a consultant for my son's rap group called Why So Serious, so shout out to Why So Serious Entertainment. The black male unemployment, I would say it's more, I'm here to understand what is exactly the black women's role, since black women are unemployed too, since majority of us are head of households. We need to talk about the racial climate that is going on right now, because it can no longer be hidden or explained away or not talked about, because each week stuff is coming out from opposition worse and worse. And I feel personally that if something's not done about this unemployment roll, it's going to get out of hand, where it's going to get real ugly. Almost like the situation that was this past summer in London, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm really concerned for, again, I'm really concerned for black people in this state here, because I just got done reading another report about black unemployment being the highest in the nation. And that kills the whole Minnesota nice, progressive stereotype of Minnesota, because obviously actions speak louder than words. Because I, for one, am unemployed. I consider myself in that statistic. And I'm still trying to figure out what is our role with black men if a lot of us are single and don't have men and we have kids. What is our role? So that's why I'm here, because I come in contact with a lot of young black men and that are like my son's age, which is 21. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's a different breed out here, and they're losing hope as we speak.
Thank you. Thank you. LaTonya?
Hello, my name is Tonya Slack, and I am born and raised in Minneapolis, single parent to one daughter who happens to be unemployed. So I am here to, find out what I can do. I know lots of men and women in Minneapolis that are both unemployed. So I'm just here to find out what it is we can do to help all these young people, young and old. What can we do?
Welcome, Don.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Chisholm. My name is Don Allen. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Independent Business News Network. And, in August this year, it was reported by the Department of Labor that black unemployment surged to 16.7%, while white unemployment fell slightly to 8%. There's a huge disconnect in our political leaders, because I'm going to come from a political perspective. Even if you look at the Congressional Black Caucus, who's gearing up for their annual shindig, in 2008, it cost $3.9 million, and they paid a decorator $350,000. And I think that money could be used in another direction to help stem some of this unemployment, these programs. I've asked politicians here locally in Minneapolis to make areas like North Minneapolis 55405, 55411, and in South Minneapolis 55407 and 8 empowerment zones, which means that you can attract business in, but you don't pay taxes on the money you earn, but you pay taxes on what you buy. And that's a huge incentive for big business to come into town and hire people from the community. And so far, we haven't gotten any response, but we have to keep pushing in it. Again, this is an important issue, and I'm glad I'm here this morning.
Well, welcome, Don. Monica?
Good morning, listening audience. My name is Monica Mayberry, and I am a native Minnesotan, born and raised in St. Paul. And I'm a North Sider. My father is a native North Sider, so I have the best of the Gemini cities that I represent. I'm here today because we always talk about what the problems are, but we really need to focus on the solutions. Solutions are very, very important. If we are not sharing with each other, just, anything, any type of information, but also with the information you have to do. I've learned and served in communities that I've worked in since like 1980, so I think it's important to give back to community. However, sometimes you have to give to self. But back to the solution piece, I'm here because I'd like to just talk about solutions and what we can do to empower ourselves, our family, the community, the nation, and the world.
Well, that's the panel this morning, and once again, I'm Lenny Chisholm. I think what we're about to is a critical conversation that we have to have. The reason it became very important, and I'm often in the room advocating for the opportunities that the African Americans and others should be receiving, particularly after the election of President Barack Obama, who is the first African American president. But in the room, I noticed, room after room, I noticed a glaring absence, and that was black women. And so as I go in the room, it's very easy to be confrontational with white men, which were dominant in the room. We have a different situation when a black man starts to be very confrontational with a white woman. She's demanding her rights for her families and etc. We have nothing. There's nothing against that. The problem that we had was I saw that we needed strong black voices in there. Recently, Congresswoman Maxine Waters said and I'll paraphrase this, we are unable to go after Barack Obama for solutions because we're afraid that we're going to be unelected, in so many words, because we feel that we go after him, the black voters would come after us. And I said, wait, that's an interesting statement coming from a black woman that's in direct contact with the president and the committees that form policies. So the question to be asked is this a point of weakening for the black woman, or is this a point of strength for the black woman? Because if she can't approach Barack Obama, who's a black man and he's in office, then how are we going to ask the common black woman who's on the streets every day seeing the problems to address this issue in these same rooms on a local level? What are the thoughts on that?
Well, this is
well, before Roxanne gets started, that's what I'm seeing in the room. We're seeing, and I don't want to use this in a negative light, because that silence is what we're running across. Because at the end of the day, we have to have someone speaking on behalf of them. So the same look that Roxanne gave us, and Ebony and LaTonya, and they gave us, is not uncommon. Because the question becomes, even if we got all the negatives that are associated with black men out of the way, what would you do as a course of action? Because you're going to have young men that you're raising as single moms that are going to be affected by the same problems that their older counterparts are, their uncles and their dads, and etc. So as you start to postulate, we define crisis as something that has to be resolved. So now we have women in the room, or absent in the room, to try to address this crisis. So if Maxine Waters saying she's having a hard time addressing the crisis, and she sees and can talk directly to Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, what shall we think from the local level?
Well, for one, I think the silence from the black community about the president it's not a rocket science. You go on the internet, you turn on the TV, you read the paper, and it's attack after attack after attack from primarily white staunch right-wing Republicans. And it's just where it's just too much, where a lot of us has been taught I remember I was taught, because my parents were from the South. And one thing is, you do not ever speak ill against another black man or woman, because the white man is already doing that. So I think, that being said, I think that's what a lot of black people across are being careful and thinking before they talk. Because, like, for example, I just read something this morning about, not to throw names out, but this is a discussion. Tavis Smiley going on Fox News to Sean Hannity's show and to speak ill about the president. And he's been doing this since 2007, because I've been following that. That's a prime example of more like the Willie Lynch syndrome. And a lot of conscious black people don't want to fall into that. So I think that's why the silence, especially for black women, pretty much speaks for itself, because we don't want to ruffle more any feathers or be considered a sellout, or being attacked by other black people. You're just a sellout because you're sitting up there dissing the black president, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a lot of fear with that, which is pretty much understandable because of our upbringing. However, there is certain issues that, could probably be addressed. But why do that when you have the right just coming at this man like crazy every single day? It's something where it's frustrating.
So first of all, feel free to jump in at any time, because this is an open, critical conversation. And I want to have it because, as I pointed out, regardless of who's in the White House, the problem has persisted prior to Barack Obama, and many felt that we would have an opportunity to make some solutions to some of these problems. So now, if we hear that, we want to be able to empower Maxine Waters and other members of Congress, if necessary to be, but also to empower the black woman on the local level to understand that the crisis is the crisis, and it affects everybody's lives, including those that are closest to you and those who are far away from you. But feel free to step in. I think, Don, you had a moment.
Yeah, I would just like to follow up with Ms. Ebony's comment about the attacks on President Obama. You know, being a conservative, when you view this, President Obama is the first elected black president. And I'm proud of that. I was tickled pink when he was finally elected, even though of my political stance. But the thing is, you have to hold him accountable. Maxine Waters, the Congressional Black Caucus, and a lot of those folks around the country held him up as a messiah. Now, you know, he hasn't addressed poor people. His last State of the Union address, he didn't say anything about the poor, the unemployed, or black people in general. And so now, you know, you elected a president. He's not a celebrity. You have to hold him accountable. You have to make things happen. Make him be aware of things that are going on. You have to give him some solutions. This gun shyness from Maxine Waters, I mean, I don't understand it. I think it's very critical that we look at it and analyze it and find out, you know, after President Obama got elected, I mean, he made sure the Congressional Black Caucus got a whole hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, what did they do with it? And to answer Lenny's question, to bring this back locally, we have to look at the stimulus money that President Obama put out on the table. We know that a lot went to China, a lot went to the banks, a lot went to nonprofit organizations, universities, and nonprofit businesses or organizations, excuse me, that did not do the trickle-down thing to the community. Now, if President Obama, you all know this, as black women and black men, if President Obama he's the president of the United States, or if a black man, you're the head of the corporation, head of NBC, head of BET, okay? And in this case, you have counterparts, or you have worker bees in different areas, okay? Those worker bees might not be focused on your best interest.
So given that thought, Don, what are your thoughts on that, Roxanne?
Well, I have no problem bashing a black man at all if that's what he needs to push him, you know, put a little fire under him. That I don't mind that. I hear a lot of talk about Obama from people that I trust, from people who I go to for advice and wisdom. It's, you know, I voted for him, bottom line. And I don't think that the solution is alone in him. I think one of the things, Don, you brought up was that we have to hold him accountable. I think that's the answer. I think black people do a lot of blaming. I think we do a lot of blaming, and we wait for other people to come to the table and do it for us sometimes. And I see a lot of black people in the room, and at the same time, I'm like, yo, where's the rest of them? Like, we need more. We need to mobilize. I mean, coming from a community organizer's standpoint, I'm all about being in the room. I'm all about knowing about the opportunities so that I can share them with other people. That's one of the main reasons why I took the opportunity to join the NERC board on the North Side, North Side Residents Redevelopment Council, excuse me. And, you know, I wanted, one of the things I realized is it's not about what you know. It's about who you know. Mm-hmm. Yep. And if you're not taking the time to get to know more people and to build relationships with people, you're probably not going to know what's happening out there. You know, and people need to take that step.
So given that, Latanya, what are your thoughts? You've heard from two women in the room, actually three women in the room. What do you think?
Well, I'm one of the ones who tends to stay silent because when I do open my mouth about Obama and say something negative, I always get, you know, people coming at me how wrong I am when I voice my opinion about Obama. I mean, like we've all said, you know, I'm sure most of us voted for him, but a lot of us are probably, you know, unhappy with the things that he has done, or more importantly, the things he has not done. He's just now addressing the black people, and he's in his last year of his presidency, and he's just now starting to address, you know, the black community, and that's, you know, because he basically needs the vote. But at the same time, he, you know, hasn't really done anything for us on the local level. I mean, there may be one or two people up top that can say, you know, he's helped us, but, you know, when it comes down to us, there really hasn't been much.
So Ebony, I see you're raring to say something here. So let's get you in, because if you have a voice, that's what I'm getting at.
Oh yes, I do.
We need to hear these voices. So because at the end of the day, President Obama, and I don't want to focus too much on President Obama because he's just one person. We have 435 members of Congress,
and that's
100 House of Representatives. There's 100 senators, of which none are African American at this point in time. Barack was the last one that we had. I'm sorry, Burris was the last one that we had. So now we have local politicians who are at that level. Congressman Ellison, Congressman Richards, Elijah Cummings, that's down there. So we don't want to focus just on the president. We want to say you have members of Congress that we want to see pushed to come with solutions. Now, how can the black woman's voice, I presume that's what you're about to say, is going to help with that push?
Well, one thing I think is lack of knowledge of politics. Lack of knowledge of politics in the community. That's one thing I always see. Because like when I get to talking, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on, at the bus stop or whatever, people are intimidated. A lot of black people are intimidated by the lack of knowledge. I have sat there and watched CNN with some of my son's friends, and they'll just sit there and they'll just look at me and have me interpret it more of a, let's say, different level where they can understand it. I don't want to say ghetto. I don't want to say.
Well, no, say ghetto, because
like
I mean you got to reach
or hood.
I'm just
gonna say it. It's more of on a hood level for them to understand.
Is that not how a minister reaches a lot of his people on the hood level? I mean, you got to meet them where they at.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess. Absolutely. I mean, I don't go to church, but yeah.
Well, I'm gonna pray for you.
But yeah.
In the name.
But that's the thing, is politics is ran by a bunch of liars,
Yeah.
And they're, lawyers, aka lawyers, and I mean, that is dangerous in itself, because we're talking about making policies better for people. So how can a bunch of liars be in control of that? And how do we let them get that power? And that's all they're about, is politics. That's another thing, is we got to break the code. Like, there's this whole code around what different politicians do, what type of power they have. And I do believe, I'm glad you brought up, it's more on a local level, it's more on a local level, but there's a lot of people here more on a local level that have a lot of power in our own districts and our own cities. And I think we need to put some pressure under them. I think Obama is waiting for us to get up and start coming behind him and pushing some pressure. If he calls out the white man on his white supremacy, he's going down right away. There's a bunch of white folks that are not going to vote for him. I do believe he might be waiting for his next term.
And that's another thing. I am so really sick and tired of certain black people coming out. What's he going to do for us? What's he going to do for us? When he's the president of the United States. And I know you didn't want to spend too much time on Obama, but like one thing, because I watched that jobs bill, and one thing is on the local, when he says, call your congressman, call your senators. We need to be more focused more on the local, because like I voted in 2010, and when I walked into where I go vote at, I think it was at UROC. I walked in there, I was the only one in the room. And I think with the with all the hype with voting in 2008 and everybody was just, well, I was. I was gone. I was hyped. I think with the hype, when 2010 came around, everybody was like, okay, well, we voted for the president, so, oh well. A lot of people
It's a wrap.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know about the representatives, the city council members, and congressmen, and how
Congressman.
You said it. And how important that is on a local. And I tell my kids that, where we got to get the local stuff. Yeah, it's important to vote for the president and that, but like the governor, all the way down. Get people out that's just not doing anything. You mentioned something about lawyers, and that's really interesting, because I'm tired of seeing that's what I loved about Obama, because he came from a background almost like mine. Well, not to that extreme, but as far as not privileged. A lot of politicians, they come from money, old money, and all that. And right now, the climate in the country, everybody's saying to hell with the rich. So I mean,
But
that's
but the rich create
Except for the
jobs
rich.
and opportunities.
So
they're not doing that right
as
now.
we're about to go into a small station break here, one of the things I want to point out is government decides a lot of the things that go on in our lives. They determine our liberties. They determine what we do. If we want to go 65 and the speed limit's 55, then they got a guy out there that says you have to pay the price for that. So we can't ignore what the role of the government is in our everyday lives. So as we take a quick break here, that's what we're trying to discuss is what will it take to get African American women into that mindset that this role has to take on their voices so that we can make things happen. Well, as you heard, I played a couple of strong songs in the background. I got that Al Green, and then I kicked in that Rita Franklin. I presume everybody most know those. And the R-S-P-E-C-T is a trademark of the black woman, and she talks about that. One of the things I think when I speak of the local politics and the local involvement, when Barack Obama, who's asking now for another, I think it's $447 billion or so for another round of stimulus money to come to the communities, of that, $109 billion is for infrastructure projects of roads, bridges, things of that nature. The African American male has traditionally been left out of that process. We haven't been allowed adequate progress in the unions and haven't been for years. So let's look at the makeup of the African American male's mind. What's the educational level in comparison to the white man? Now, as you mentioned, you had a lot of young men over, and there's nothing wrong with being from the hood. I mean, everybody says "fo." I mean, that's good. That's all good. You know, the problem we have is that the masses of most of any group are uneducated. As far as when we get to saying extended education, colleges, master's degrees, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of them work in the construction trades. So without access to the construction trades, how do you think that's affecting the growth of our communities?
I think it's affecting it in a big way because a lot of them are, I'm just going to go back to racism. It all goes back to who's handing out, these type of jobs for these infrastructure. It's racism. And you mentioned something about education and young black men. I have watched a lot of my son's friends try to get into community college, and the hell and the hoops that they have to go through just to get financial aid is just astounding. And see, a lot of them, that's why I said there, a lot of them are using hope or just saying, to hell with it, might as well just go try to get into sports or rapper or street pharmacist or whatever, to do, hustle, whatever, because they feel, the self-esteem is already out there. Is low, and it's just like, well, why not? Because I've heard a lot of young black men say, well, the black woman gonna get farther than us because the white man don't want us here, or I'm just a black man. So it's a lot that has to do with self-esteem.
So let's given that as a backdrop, and they don't get into any of the secondary schools. Mm-hmm. Then they would resort to what I would call labor jobs. Am I correct, Don?
You are absolutely correct.
They're gonna have to resort to labor jobs. Don's family was a construction family. And prior to the Civil Rights Acts, none of us got really a truly opportunity to work corporate America. But let's take that example a little farther. If you're 6 feet or tall, an African American man, and I encourage anyone to do this, if you're 6 feet or tall, and you want to find out how limited African American males are in corporate America, go to any downtown, Atlanta, Chicago, wherever, and watch the number of African American men that come out of those buildings that are 6 feet or taller. And then you ask yourself, wow, if they're not coming out of here, what are they doing? So the construction industry is one that we have to say we got to have access to. Now, Roxanne, you had mentioned to me an interesting story about the construction person in your life.
Are we talking about my black man, or?
Well, we can talk about yours or someone else's.
I don't know exactly which story we were talking about. I know I talk a lot, so I will just talk about my man, who is a black man who is unemployed. However, I know he made it very specific. He did not want me to get on his personal stuff, so I love you, baby. I will not go there. However, I will say this. There are many reasons that I think black men aren't getting jobs. One, like Ebony says, it's just the main reason is because of racism and white supremacy. They're holding all the power. And when I talk about power, I'm talking about they hold the key to the education system. They are in charge of all the government buildings. They are in charge of how much money they give to nonprofits. And I think for me, what I do in my life with my man is I try to do the little things that I can. Like when he was going to school and he was trying to get his degree in welding at MCTC, he was working hard. He was working like 9-hour days, 10-hour days, coming back home tired, exhausted. I would make his lunch for him so he didn't have to buy all that expensive food down there. You know, we had a lot of stress during that when he was trying to go, but he went through it and he worked hard and he still doesn't have a job. So I know that it's not because black men don't want to work, because I have one who works very hard and he has to do what he can around the neighborhood with family and with friends to help them out to make ends meet. He works hard. I believe, again, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So regardless of your education, I only got my GED and I'm doing incredible things in the neighborhood. You don't need any degree to help. You really don't. I mean, I believe that it has to be a passion of yours. You have to care about the community. You have to care about the people you're around. That's the degree you need. And if you don't have that, you're not going to be helpful or survive.
So Don, you wanted to chime in about some of those numbers.
Yeah. I just think that to do better, you got to know better. Okay. Maya Angelou said, "I did then what I knew how to do. Now that I know better, I do better." That's something that she said. What happens is that you have this in Minnesota. We're dealing locally. We're off the Obama stuff for a minute. We're dealing locally here. We have the widest wealth gap between blacks and whites. We have the widest education gaps between children of color and whites. We have the widest gap in that's the unemployment already. Unemployment between blacks and whites. I was fortunate enough to work in corporate America for more than 30 years, and so I saw it firsthand. I had like you're talking about, it's hard to even get a welding job. Well, think of this: walking into a corporate office, being hired by the general manager. You walk around the corner and they say, "Yeah, I'm going to take the job because it paid really good." But the general manager says, "Yeah, well, hiring him is just like hiring a woman," and that's what they do. So you have to look at the significant racial causal elements and there's no sensitivity training. So you have an area like Minneapolis where it's a small black population. You could easily solve the unemployment here, the poverty. I mean, we could be rolling like they do down south in Atlanta, North Carolina, South Carolina, where brothers are running stuff down there, okay? But we have this huge block here, which what I call, you know, well, I'm not gonna say it on air, but you have a DFL group of infrastructure here that has consistently stopped new leadership. And so we don't have any black women. And one thing that we need is men follow black women. Black men will follow black women. We need a strong base. But the people who keep the gates, these are all guys. They don't want, and they're not even from here, some of them. Weren't even born in Minnesota. And so they keep, you know, people out. They block you out. And if you criticize them, they're saying that you're attacking them. You know, Martin Luther King said, if I could pull it up here, he says, okay, I lost it. Anyway, I just lost it on my iPad. But you can't have destructive selfishness. You know, you expect people to have benevolence, virtue, and what it is basically self-love.
So
okay?
Don, if I can paraphrase, I want to let LaTonya say something here. You're saying that the numbers of people that have jobs here in the state could drastically change if we changed our mindset a little bit.
Exactly. I agree 100% with that, yes.
What are your thoughts on some of these things that you've heard so far, Tonya?
Well, when you mentioned black men coming out of corporate America that pretty much hit home for me. I've worked in corporate America for the past 20 years, still do now. And when you said that, I thought on the floor that I work on, there's one black man over 6 feet. And then I thought again, is that the only black man on the floor? I mean, there may be other, racial ethnicities on the floor, but that's the only black man on my floor. I mean, there are some in the building, but unfortunately, most of them are in customer service roles. But as far as managers go and roles that supervisors go, that's the only one that I could think of. And unfortunately, a lot of the men that are qualified for those roles get looked down on. They're hiring mostly women in those positions in corporate America. And unfortunately, that's just, the way it is in Minnesota. And I'm sure in other, cities across the U.S. I see Ebony is ready to chime in.
What thing? Wait. Ebony wants to talk. This is what the show is all about. It's about having black women. This is what the show is all about. It's about having black women raise their voice. I walk in a room and they say, well, often they'll say, Lenny, you're angry. I say, yeah, I am angry. I'm mad as hell. I'm going to be honest with you, and I think we can use that word on the radio. This particular radio is pretty acceptable. But it's organized anger. Advocacy is organized anger. As Roxanne mentioned, she's had a lot of training in community building. So the question I ask is, are they collectively angry enough to start changes to happen? In the 60s, a flash mob was called a riot. In North Minneapolis, they were called disturbances, et cetera, et cetera. Have we gotten to the point where we're angry enough if your boyfriends don't have jobs, if your sons don't have jobs, they're just turning 18, your uncles, your cousins, your brothers, at what point do you get angry and say, well, I'm not going out there on a construction site, but he's got a strong back, he's ready to go?
I know, I'm angry.
Well, and I think we're just now getting to the point where we are angry because we see it, in generations of people that are unemployed. It's not just, the 21-year-olds fresh out of high school. You've got their dad and their grandfathers who are unemployed and have been unemployed. So I think, speaking as a black woman, we're just now getting angry enough to where we can make a stand ahead of the black man in that respect. And like Don said, a black man will follow a black woman. So I think we just have to,
right now.
Can we
stay angry.
Black men that are gonna walk behind us.
I know. Now, Ebony, you wanted to say. Here goes the. I want to hear, because I hear the anger, but I don't hear it. I hear it on the street, but I don't ever hear it in the rooms. Sometimes that really matter.
Well, and a lot of times, I don't think people know where to voice their anger or who to voice it to, and outside of their homes or with their friends or things like that. I don't think we know which avenue to take,
Congressman,
who to talk to. I think that's part of the problem.
I know for the North Side, the organization I'm with, NERC, we do a lot of community gatherings through UROC, and that is our main mission is to facilitate and engage the community so that they can make decisions for themselves and be powerful people. I think that UROC is a great place to come to, so I just want to hey, I'm a new board member, so in the end, I'm making it a good place to come to talk to, and I want to make sure all voices are heard, because I'm angry myself. I'm angry. I have a man who has experience in picking cotton out in the fields with his mom, and she had 24 kids. I'm angry when I hear that she was shot while she was pregnant with one of my boyfriend's brothers. I'm angry when I hear they shot his dog, Hercules. I'm angry about all that, and I think we don't talk about our anger enough. I think we're so worried about people caring about us calling them racist when we need to call them racist, and we need to keep talking about that they're being racist until they figure out that we're not going to go away and we're not okay with the situation. I think anger is a good thing. One of my mentors, shout out to Shaka from Hope Community, told me that anger can be used as fuel. You can use anger to do good things with it. You don't have to do destructive things with anger. That's one of my motivators, and I mean, I'm here to stay. There is no other option for me but to fight for my people, or to quit, and that's not an option. So.
Well, Ebony, do you have an angry voice you want? Because I mean, Roxanne was kind of quiet about 10 minutes ago. No.
Yes, I am. I'm mad as hell about what's going on. Because, like with and I had to use my son's group because this is my time. That's the only time I see young black men, and these are men with no records, okay, no criminal records, but I have actually, I would do some of the job search for them because going to certain organizations in the community, like Don has mentioned about, how some of the nonprofits have not, lived up to their standards as far as the job programs. And a lot of them are very mistrustful of that, which with good reason, because I've had experience with that myself. So I'll give you an example. I saw a job fair somewhere for just something, a restaurant, and they said no experience necessary. And so I told some of the, young cats, hey, they hiring this, and that. Why don't y'all go get it? And I've watched them, did not have pants sagging. They were dressed up, properly groomed, actually go to the job fair, and they turn out, and as soon as they see it's a black face, a young black face, is that, oh, we're not hiring. Or I even had one guy told me, Ebony, they said that they didn't know what you were talking about, and what I should have did is I should have printed it off the ad from Craigslist so you can go back to show it to them. It's stuff like that that's just so insulting.
So as Monica has to make some changes here to pause here, anger should be organized and forced so that the government will make changes to change our plight as African Americans, and black women and black men should be willing to push that anger and not walk in the room and always have social acceptance. As we go into this next break, I think we needed to reflect. Anger is a good thing.
You're listening to Solutions, Wave Project, and go ahead, take it away, Lenny.
Well, I told Don I would give him a rant. He wanted to have a flash mob rant on the air, and I said, go for it.
Hi. Okay, thank you, Lenny, for that. I just want to say I'm angry. I'm very angry, and just this week I had my feelings hurt because I was accused by disliking black people. And I was accused by disliking black people from the chairman of the Northside Community Tornado Response Team in response to me asking where the money's at. To this day, we have 12,000 displaced people in North Minneapolis from the tornado, and not one of them has received one green piece of paper from anybody. But yet the nonprofits who split over $600,000-$700,000 have gotten stronger, hired more staff, and the people get nothing. If you dial that helpline, human needs line, you get an answering machine and you barely get a call back. Secondly, we must hold our agencies, our black agencies, accountable. Women, black men, black teenagers that need jobs. If Mayor R.T. Rybeck can find $600,000 to distribute to the neighborhood organizations which are white ran, he can find $600,000 to employ a bunch of youth over north and in South Minneapolis for the rest of the school year. This is a heinous oversight by this political plantation here, and the house Negroes that are portraying coonery on the field Negroes in North Minneapolis need to stop, because this is absolutely ridiculous. Thank you, Lenny.
Well, I'll let you go with that coonery again. I mean, I understand that coonery. I think, Don, one of the things that we want to do, we just had a caller, and I want them to call back. Her name was Stacy, and I'm sorry we lost you during that break, Stacy. As we say, let's rebuild America. We built America. Yes. Let's make sure we built America.
We did.
The thing that we have to look at is how will we get angry enough so we build America and get paid. I mean, I mean, that's what we're trying to.
We need to stop trying to be a part of their organizations or their businesses or corporations that don't want to hire us. In my opinion, I think we need to stop trying to chase that. I think it starts to get pointless after a while when we believe that these people who have been lying to us for years are going to actually give us an opportunity. I think that we need to work with those who will give us opportunities and definitely build some opportunities on our own. I was going to say there's a success quote that I read one time, and it helps me a lot when I'm going through problems. And it's big opportunities are often disguised as big problems. Well, I think everybody can clearly see that Northside has got many problems. So we can look at it in an optimistic way and say that's an opportunity for us to build something for ourselves. And we don't have to wait for these people who don't want nothing to do with us to keep coming into our communities and building their own wealth. We can start standing up and saying, we don't want you to keep coming over here unless it's going to benefit us. That's one of the things I liked about Lenny Chisholm, your book, Mobilizing Black Wealth. I really dug all the great questions you had in there, because you asked a lot of questions that had me thinking, like, why would these businesses offer us opportunities? You know, do they have to offer us opportunities? It made me start thinking. At first I was thinking, no, they don't. I guess they don't have to if they're taking all the risks and they're using their money and their resources. But then I thought about it later, like, well, you know what? They're using our resources too. They're using our money too. So I think we have just as much as a right to be prosperous in our own communities as other organizations are. Also, I wanted to say, I wanted to remind people that places to come to and voice their opinions and participate in actions. One of the places that I keep bringing up is Hope Community. They definitely have a lot of events and activities and people over there organizing and volunteering their time. There's not many people getting paid at all. We are doing this because we see an urgency. I think UROC is going to be a very powerful place to come to very soon. I think that people need to just start coming and holding people accountable. Look me up, Roxanne O'Brien. I'm a new member of the 7th District. Come and support me. Come hold me accountable. And others who agitate oppressors. You have to be involved. You have to stay involved.
Well, I think, Roxanne, you said something really critical there. And that is, and I always like to say Jed Clampett is the one that I admire. Jed Clampett was out there shooting in the ground one day and some oil came up, and that was his money. And when the tornado came through North Minneapolis and tore down a lot of the houses recently, that was our money when we get ready to rebuild that community. And that money, as we didn't see any Excel utility workers dying. We didn't see any City of Minneapolis workers dying, but we see lots of young men on the street dying every day. And they're out there trying to hustle up a living, and we're watching the gold walk out the street, walk right out. We don't see them on the rooftops. We don't see them on the sidewalks working. We see them on the sidewalk standing, gathering, and they call them a mob. Well, actuality, our money is that's what Roxanne's referring to. The black gold, the black is right there in our own community, and we cannot go work in the white communities and get that money. So what I'm saying to a lot of people is that black women, that voice is what we're saying. You got to be angry about the things that are going on within your neighborhood, because ultimately, if you walk outside and you see everybody making a check except for your family, then you have to ask the question, well, what can be done? As we get ready to wrap up here, because our show is ending, I want to thank all of our guests: Roxanne, Ebony, LaTonya, Don Allen,
Thank you.
Monica for engineering.
Thank you for having
It
me.
was fun.
Yes.
One of the things that we really want to try to do, and Let's Talk Solutions, is that we want people to realize that anger is not a bad thing. This country was built on anger. 1776. We are one of the most aggressive countries in the world, and when it comes to our people, we're supposed to be quietly accepting the travesties that go on. In actuality, we got to make some strides. We have to take that anger, channel it, organize it, and force government. And I think Don will agree. Frederick Douglass said, "No power shall yield without a demand."
Yes.
Yes.
And Frederick Douglass was a Republican back in the day.
Solid.
So.
Solid.
We don't know about the Republicans or the Democrats today, because
No,
we're still having problems, or independents, or Green Party. But the point I'm really trying to say is, y'all got to go out there and get in the streets again or something, because, you know.
Stop being scared.
I got my marching shoes. Everybody that knows me knows I will do it.
Yes, and we're sorry, caller, we didn't get to you, but we really do appreciate you joining us today for the WAVE Project.
Once again, my name's Lenny Chisholm. I've been joined by Roxanne O'Brien, Ebony
Harris,
LaTonya Slack, Don Allen, and once again on the wheels of steel,
Miss Monica Mayberry. Thank you.
Give it to me when you get ready.